Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to solve are the ones that you will find on page number 532. Please turn to it, page 532, and today is our lesson number 12. There are 11 questions of this particular type. We did the first 4 on the previous page, on page number 531 yesterday. Those were easy questions on a scale of 1 through 11. They were the first 4. Today we'll do the questions that you see in the first column, 5 through 8. Those are medium questions, and then we'll do 8, 9, and 10 in the second column. Those are hard. Number 5. That's the medium question. It says, Alice, an early filmmaker, introduced, we are told, she introduced close-ups and double exposures, Now, had this been the end of the sentence, that she introduced close-up and double exposures, and somebody were to ask her to improve this sentence, the answer would be, it doesn't need any improvement. This sentence is fine. Which means that even though the word exposure is underlined, that's not the problem. The problem is not there. The problem is whatever the problem is, it's going to appear after that. And then they go on to say that she introduced close-up and double-ups. Also, she set cars on fire. Also she set cars on fire. That's a little awkward. That is awkward. Only thing that it needs, the only work it needs is that this word also has to be picked up and moved here. It should read, she also set cars on fire. That's all there is. She also set cars on fire, and so on and so forth. Use rats in the special effects sequence and ran film backwards. That's all it is. Instead of saying also she said, we have to say she also said, and that's all there is. At this point we lift our hand. I hope your answers were covered with your hand. As I always remind you, you mustn't look at the answer choices. Your answer should be covered with one hand, having the pencil in the other hand. Lift your hand at this point and find one answer choice that says this thing, she also said, and that will be B says, and also she said. B is same as A in terms of the sequence of the words. That's not good. She said exposures, and then she said, and then it goes on to say she said. It doesn't say also. C is no good. D says she also said. There you go. She also said. That's it. And E is just nonsense. The answer is D. Next one. Number 6. The company maintains computer systems for small businesses. Company maintains computer system for small businesses. Plus it will manage something else. This is what the sentence says. Sentence says that the company maintains computer system for small businesses, plus it will manage something else. This is nonsense. It has to continue in the present tense. The company maintains computer system for small businesses, and this has to go, plus has to go, this will have to go, and manages. We need the word and manages. Not so much the word and, but instead of saying plus it will, it should say manages. Company maintains computer system for small businesses and manages something else. Now we lift our hand and we find one answer choice that comes closest to it. Let's start then. There is no point in reading A, as I always remind you, because A just repeats whatever is studied in the sentence. Let's read B. B says businesses, which we have here, businesses, comma, businesses was underlined. And then it goes on to say, in addition it will manage. No, in addition it will manage. That's not good. It should say and manages. There you go, and manages. The answer is C. The answer is C. And D goes on to say, and additionally they will also, that's not good. And E says it manages. No, we need and manages. The answer is C. Let's go on to the next one. Number 7. Tell you what, before we do number 7, let's do something else. Let's do this one. Number 7. It says I like. I'm making it up. You understand? This is not in the book. I'm making it up. I like reading books. Playing piano or listening to music. It should say listening to music, and play piano. What's wrong with it? I like reading books, listening to music, and play piano. This has to do with what is known as parallel structure. It has to be consistent. Reading books, listening to piano, listening to music. It should say playing. It should say playing piano. They have to be consistent because these are all activities: reading, playing, listening. It has to be consistent. Or we could have said, I like to read books, I like to listen to music, and I like to play piano. That would have been fine too. But the way it is written here, I like reading books, listening to music, and to play piano, is no good. It has to be playing piano. Let's do the one that they give us in the book. Let's do the one that they give us in the book. It says, studying dance for many years. Studying, see, with the ing, dance for many years. Practicing difficult steps. Practicing difficult steps again. Practicing difficult steps every day. And frequent performances has something has enabled the young dancer to secure a reading role in the spring production. What's wrong with it so far? Well, again, this has to do with parallel constructions. We have studying for dance, practicing difficult steps. It should say, and frequently, not performance, but performing. And frequently performing, or performing frequently, even better. Studying dance, practicing difficult steps, and frequently performing or performing frequently rather, it should say performing frequently. The adverb has to go after that. So instead of frequent performances, it should say performing frequently. Performing frequently has secured has enabled her to secure the leading role in the upcoming production. Now we're going to lift our hand and find one answer choice that comes closest to it. All we are doing here is changing the word frequent to frequently, putting it after performing. Performance has to turn to performing. Let's lift our hand and see what we can do. B says frequent performances. That's no good. B is no good. C does say frequently performing, but then it goes on to say the young dancer being enabled. That's not what we said. That's not what we said. Rest of the stuff we did not change. We only change frequent performances to performing frequently. That's the only thing we have done change. C is no good. Frequent performing, that's no good. We need performing frequently. E says frequently performing, enable the young dancer. There you go. The answer is E. The answer is E. That's the one that comes closest to what we just said. Let's go to number 8. Yes, you're right. These are tedious and time-consuming in terms of explaining things. Though now, though now one of the most famous abstract artists, though now one of the most famous artists, and then they go on to say something, something, something. When the sentence starts out like this, when you start describing about something or someone, if you start out your sentence by describing something or something about someone or something, that someone or something has to be mentioned immediately after this phrase that applies to that person or that thing. That's what's wrong with this part here. They go on to say, though now one of the most famous abstract artists, and then they go on to say, critics once ridiculed Jackson Pollock. That name, Jackson Pollock, has to come first. So how do we fix it then? If we put that first, then we have to go on to say, Jackson Pollock was once ridiculed by the critics. Jackson Pollock was once ridiculed by the critics. Now we lift our hand, we look at the 5 answer choices and pick the one that comes closest to it. Again, there is no point in reading A. B doesn't have Jackson Pollock's name to begin with, so that's not the answer. The answer is either C, D or E, because these are the 3 that begin with his name. C says Jackson Pollock once ridiculed by critics. That's not what we're looking for. It doesn't have a noun in it. C doesn't have a noun in it. Jackson Pollock was once ridiculed. C has no noun. Rather, it has no verb, rather. That's what I meant to say. C has no verb in it. We need the word was. D says Jackson Pollock was once ridiculed by critics. There you go. D is the answer. And E says having once been ridiculed. That's ridiculous. The answer is D. Let's move on then. Number 9. Number 9, 10 and 11. Now we're getting into nasty territory. These are hard questions. On a scale of 1 through 11, these are the last 3. Number 9. Legendary 19th century endurance rider Hopkins. Now the fact that he was legendary 19th century endurance rider, none of that interests us. We're not interested in any of this thing. That's not the interesting bit for us. That's the boring bits. That's the irrelevant bit. We're just interested in the part that pertains to the grammar of the sentence, which begins with the sentence, which begins with his name rather. Hopkins, we are told, who rode the American Mustang to victory in a 3,000-mile race across the Arabian desert. None of this interests us. To victory in a 3,000-mile race across the Arabian desert. None of this interests us. That's mumbo jumbo. And then they go on to say, and the hero of the movie. Hero of the movie. So this is how the sentence reads. I'm going to erase this part that is not of interest to us. Now the sentence reads, this is what it says. He who rode the Mustang and the hero of the movie. To which you will say, what the hell? The sentence has no verb. It has no verb. We have to fix it. And the fixing part is going to come here. He, the person who rode the Mustang is the hero of the movie. Who is the hero of the movie? The person who rode the Mustang, who won the race, the 3,000-mile race across the country. He is the hero of the movie. This part "and" has to be changed to "is." You see, this is getting very tricky. This sentence had no verb. The way it was written, it had no verb. And of course, all we have to do is replace "and" with "is," and that's answer choice D. The answer is D. Let's move on to the penultimate one, the second to the last one, number 10. It says, to introduce itself to a wider audience, the title band sold its CD cheaply to the enthusiastic fan. To introduce itself to introduce itself to wider audience, I don't know how to spell audience. The band sold its CDs cheaply to fans, who in turn share the music with their friends, which is not interest to us. The sentence reads like this to us. To us, as far as we're concerned, the only part that we're interested in the whole sentence is the sentence that you see on the blackboard, which is to introduce its music, it should say, to introduce itself, it should say, to introduce itself. To introduce itself, it says, to introduce itself to the wider audience, the band sold its CD cheaply to the fans. And even if you take out this part, that's not interest to us. To introduce itself to a wider audience, the band sold its CDs cheaply. How do we fix this sentence? The answer is, one does not. How does one improve the sentence? One does not. It is a beautiful written sentence. It's perfectly fine the way it is. The answer is A. There is nothing wrong with this sentence. It is fine the way it is written. Let's do the very last one, number 11. Number 11. Twice as many birds inhabit Ecuador as in North America. And as in is underlined there. This is no good. We need something to end here. Twice as many birds, twice as many people live in my house as your house. That's what it says here. It says twice as many people live in my house as in your. That's what it says. As in. This is no good. As they do. As they do in your house. Same thing is going on here. Instead of saying as in, twice as many birds inhabit Ecuador as do North America. Twice as many people live in your house as do yours. Your house or yours. This is a tricky one because here is a place. If we had a place here, we wouldn't have to worry about this adjusting last part here. Twice as many people live in town A as in B, to which you will say twice as many people live in A as do as they do. Twice as many birds inhabit Ecuador as they do North America. This example was not working out fine. I'm going to erase this part. So again, what we're doing here is that twice as many bird species inhabit Ecuador as they do North America. And then we lift our hand and we try to find one answer choice that comes closest to it, and that answer choice is B. Answer is B. And that's it. I will see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.